Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Endless Mindset Podcast. Today, we're doing something very special, something that I have not done before. And I'm actually recording this episode live with my guest right next to me, which is very new. So it's episode number 36, and for the first time, we're recording it in person. I'm bringing you someone very special to me, and someone who is a good friend of mine. He's also my landlord. As my listeners, they know that I do rent-to-rent properties, rent-to-rent holiday lets. So he's actually even my landlord, and someone who's been property in a very long time, have lots of experience in many different aspects of property. But I'll let him tell us more about what he does. So I'm bringing you the one and only Mark Dunn. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Lenka. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. It's really good to have you here.
Pleasure.
We tried to do this now for a while, so I'm glad we finally managed, and it's much better now, even in person. We were actually even saying that we don't know how to record it. Should we be looking at each other? Should we be looking at the screen? Because obviously this is very new to us. So, Mark, tell us a little bit more about you for those who don't know you.
So I've come into property as an estate agent. Well, actually, prior to that, I was a mortgage advisor. So I did that for 5 years, then got into estate agency, and I've been doing that for 22, 23 years. I've dealt with everything from sort of starter homes to high-end homes, worked with a lot of developers, small independent developers, as well as the national companies, done developments of my own, and obviously have my own investments. I advise clients on purchasing, selling, getting the best returns from their properties, how best to present them to the market to attract those quality buyers, quality tenants. So over my sort of 22, 23 years as an agent and consultant, I've seen a lot of things, and so I've got a lot of experience.
Amazing. Yeah. So you have, when you said that you are an estate agent, you do have your own letting agency as well, do you?
Lettings and sales.
Yeah.
So Mark Dunn Property Group. So deal with all aspects. So I'm just completing on with a client. I've helped project manage a barn conversion in Exminster. So that's been turned into a very nice 2-bedroom detached barn conversion. I've helped clients buy cottages and turn them into holiday lets. So covering a wide aspect. Pretty much dealt with most things regards residential property.
Nice. Yeah, you've been in a while, so it's been over 20 years now. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
As a estate agent, and then prior to that, so I was advisor, mortgage advisor for Halifax. That was in Fareham, Hampshire originally, and then moved down to Devon over sort of 25 years.
Lots of knowledge in the head.
Yeah.
And you've seen a lot. You probably experienced many different type of tenants and all that. We could probably record a podcast episode just on stories about tenants.
Yes, yeah.
I bet that's very challenging. I mean, have you found the big difference between like HMOs and buy-to-let tenants? Or
yes, so I've always sort of said, how you present your property, attracting that better quality tenant. At the end of the day, most landlords want good, healthy income, provide a good quality property that a tenant respects, pays the rent on time. But obviously life does happen. Tenants do have issues. And it's a case of managing that, having good communications and touch wood, getting issues resolved and not having communication breakdown, because that's where I've had independent clients come to me and they've had their own tenant. And unfortunately, they've allowed communications to break down, and they find themselves in a very dire situation. The law, unfortunately, doesn't really favour the landlord. It's very difficult to evict a tenant if you've got a problem. So it's best to keep that good relationship with your tenant, and hopefully then any issues can be overcome. With an approach together, working together, working with the landlord, and the landlord working with the tenant to make sure everybody kind of is happy. Most people don't genuinely go out their way to try and cause strife and problems for others. We've all got different views and aspects on life, and that's the thing with renting property. You see, everybody's got a different way of how to live.
Absolutely.
And it's a case of accommodating that.
Absolutely. Wow. Yeah. So, and you've been letting agent for different companies as well as for yourself. So you probably
No, so lettings I only did once I set up my own company. So I've had my own agency now 12 years, over 12 years. But prior, when I was in corporate estate agency, it was just dealing purely with sales.
What made you to start in property? What was the reason? Like when you one day you were like, right, you know what, I'm going to property.
So it was always of interest to me, and being an estate agent, working with all different types of clients, and seeing what they were achieving, and not necessarily in the best way. And that was the thing. It was just like, well, if they're achieving this, and I could see things where I would have improved upon things.
As well said.
So my first investment actually was HMO. I didn't go on any sort of training course or anything like that. It just self-educated. And at the time, I just saw an opportunity in the market for a high-end HMO. There was no such thing at that time when I bought my property, developed it, and provided it as a high-end HMO. I had landlords contact me, couldn't believe the rents that I was getting per room compared to what the standard market was. But that's where I saw that opportunity that professional people also wanted to share a house, but be in a quality property, not something that was generally back then. HMOs were certainly the bottom end of the property ladder. Not well presented, not nice furniture, not nicely decorated,
clean, like regularly clean, professionally.
Yes, yeah. So, but the market obviously now very much has changed. HMOs now is very high end. So yeah, that whole market has changed, and the lettings market is changing all the time. There's different factors that are affecting the market, the economy, demand, particularly if you are renting property in Exeter and the surrounding villages and so on. So it's being aware of what is happening to the market and how you position yourself. So that's very much what I advise my clients on.
Nice, very good, very good, very good. Mark, you become a developer as well. So obviously, this is one of the properties which I'm renting from you.
Yes, yeah, great.
Thank you. He just have to say I paid him to say that. Yeah, so you developed unbelievably beautiful property. It's called Sea Breeze. I mean, you develop more, but I mean that particular one, yeah.
Yes.
So what is it that excites you the most about like developing? Because you obviously became a developer. What was the reason, and what made you realize? Because you develop beautiful properties. So what is behind it?
I've always been involved with renovations and developments, as in helping small developers. So I've always had an eye for what could be done with the property. And I've dealt with different, again, the whole kind of spectrum of development. So one of the smallest properties I helped with the developer was a little cottage on the way to Sidmouth. It was very small. The developer had completed the works, but had been trying to sell with various agents and not getting anywhere. And I could see where the problems were. So it was a small cottage, but it was just small things like there was no sort of dining area, and it was only a small kitchen area that opened out to the living room. But I introduced basically a breakfast bar, and that kind of creates a separate seating area. It was nice, cool and funky. We did a couple of things to the bedrooms, which just made them that much more inviting. So it's things like that. And so it's looking at something that you can't see and seeing what are the possibilities, what can be done. So I've always been interested in property. From a child, I was very keen on art, so I would draw a lot of buildings, and so it's always the thing that interests me about property is actually occupying the space. How is a certain space best occupied? The actual house itself, the space within that house, what can be done? So it's interesting how a layout can change the whole look and feel of a property.
Absolutely. And I can tell that you did a really good job, because the ones I'm renting, you got everything in there. You even managed to squeeze like wine fridges and also in the kitchens, like with clever space and everything. So yeah, you've done very well.
Thank you. And Sea Breeze I'm particularly proud of. The thing that I would say is if you see the photos, or that certain Lenka is operating as holiday lets. The interior decoration, the decoration, that is all down to Lenka. I highly recommend, if you're wanting to have interior design for your home, for your investment properties, Lenka genuinely is the person to speak to.
Oh, thank you. And if you're looking for someone to develop your beautiful, beautiful properties, then Mark is the person to speak to.
Thank you.
Amazing. Oh, thank you, Mark. You're doing absolutely amazing. And it's like, what would you think that would be Seabreeze is your one of your trophy developments, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, you're proud of that one. But what is the other things you're from your achievements, you would be from all the things you've done, from lettings and development so far, what would you be like, what, this is my pride and joy?
So certainly, as a finished product, something that really stands out and is a showcase for hopefully my talents there is Seabreeze. But the thing that I take most sense.
Just quickly, so it's it used to be an old Victorian building with 5 or 6 flats. It was 6 originally. Yeah. So 6 flats with a sea literally in the front and the back of the property, with beautiful sea views in an incredible location. So just so they understand what Seabreeze means.
But the property hadn't been touched for I'm going to guess sort of like 60 years. Probably the 60s, so the carpet, the walls, kitchens, bathrooms. So it was, again, looking at the space differently. So one of the apartments that, Lenka is operating has a beautiful stained glass window, but that was actually looking into a very dark bedroom. But we opened out the space and made it a stunning lounge, kitchen, living space.
Stunning.
With breakfast bar, and it looks incredible. It's got the high ceilings and character features, so it's totally transformed. That space.
Didn't you even use what do you call it, millionaire's gold?
Correct. Yes, to highlight the cornicing. So we used it was literally called millionaire's gold, with obviously gold, 18 or 9 carat gold probably in the paint. So it's got a really nice luster to the finish.
We shouldn't really say that, because imagine if people who's going to listen to this, they're going to book with me and I'm going to come back and the walls are going to be scraped. It's like, what they've been doing, getting the gold.
But the great pleasure I get out of working with clients and the projects I've dealt with is that thing of problem solving. If you're looking to see how best to occupy a space or overcoming, if you want to do something, but how best to go about doing that, it's problem solving. So I do a lot of that in my business, and it's something I think my clients really appreciate, that they speak to various agents and even builders, but I will come up with something for them that nobody's even suggested. So I'm working with a client at the moment. He's got it's a double-fronted Victorian house, 3 stories, and he's spoken to so many people that he's almost got tired of it, because he knew this has got potential, but nobody had any really great vision for it. But I've come up with something for him which has got him very excited. So hopefully that's going to be a project we'll be starting.
Oh, wow, amazing. Well, that will be one of my questions as well. Like, what's the plans like for the future? So are you, because obviously I understand with your letting properties, you outsourcing the management and things like that. So what's the plan for?
So the plan is to be getting into more projects. So working with investors and developers. I work with 2 brothers who build some really stunning bespoke homes. So I've worked with them on a couple of projects, and I'm very keen to be working on new projects with them. So working with investors and developers. So when either I'm bringing them opportunities and we're looking at it together, or if they've found something, and then looking at what really could be done to maximize the return on that property, but also, what are we bringing to the market? It's not if you're an independent investor and developer, you don't want to be bringing manila products to the market. Unfortunately, you see all these new homes going up, and it pains me every time I see them, and they're all carbon copy, house after house after house. There's nothing special. There's nothing different there. There are a few from the national companies that will provide something a little bit more special, But so much of new build that you see, it's Lego, high reproduced homes that's a little bit soulless, and for just a little bit of thought could make a nice village community feel. And it is about that long term. When somebody's building a house, it is it's an actual project in itself, but you are building something that's going to last for decades and is going to have an impact on the community. It's going to have an impact on the people living there. And it's taking a moment to have a bit of consideration about that you can create something that's really wonderful, something truly inspirational that people love. And it doesn't have to cost the earth to do that. It just requires a little bit of thought, and not just simply building these mass-produced houses. But that is me off my soapbox. But yes,
I love that. Yeah, it's so true, Mark. And we've been talking about like the house where I live in currently. I'm not going to be living here for much longer, but it's a perfect example of what Mark was talking about. And we were saying about it. We were talking about it today. Yeah, you go down the street. It's the beautiful like new builds, sea view, on the in the end of the road and things like that, and the what do you call that, woodland on the left as well. So the location is fantastic. You're going down the hill, and every single house looks the same. And when you get in, the quality, more you're living in here, you realize how poor quality it is as well. Like the walls are made of paper, unfinished corners and things like that. And it's like someone signed off those properties. Someone made loads of money on those properties, and they all look the same, and it's not even great quality. Exactly what you're saying. It's really important to just do them better, do it differently.
Yeah, and it doesn't take much just to push that to get a better result. So something simple like a new kitchen being fitted, and if the doors aren't fitted securely and lined up correctly, and it gives that sharpness to it, and putting in a nice looking worktop rather than just what's the most standard worktop you can fit. It doesn't take much to start giving a bit of design and feel to a property, and buyers and tenants do appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody wants a home. We all need a roof over our head, but that's a very different thing. But everyone wants to live in a home.
That's so very beautifully said.
Thank you.
Smart cookie, hey? Awesome. That's beautiful. And Mark, well, from obviously you like solving problems, and you also like obviously being different, as you said, and just create a better product. Now, I bet that you've been through a lot.
Yeah.
And you've seen a lot.
Yeah.
And you probably, just from what I know, how many things you had to fix yourself but find solution. What would you think will be like the biggest lessons you had?
So the two projects that I've recently completed, it wasn't just big lessons, it was big lessons and many lessons. So we developed a nightclub into 10 apartments, and we developed this grade 2 listed building into these 6 apartments. So the grade 2 listing was a very different experience because we had the conservation officer involved, and it was a grade 2 listed. And up till that point, I always assumed grade 2 meant the exterior of the building, how it looked. Now, whether it was this particular conservation officer or not, but everything was brought into question, everything internally.
Wow.
And there was a lot of demands that were made, a lot of costly demands. So if you're looking at grade 2, or certainly if you're looking at grade 1 or grade 1 star, I would I would think again. But there are independent conservation officers, so they are the people to really talk to, not the conservation officer. Speak to an independent conservation officer. You'll get some great advice, and then you can really understand what you're about to step into. Well, the one thing that I see time and time again are people who get into developments, whether it's small or large, and then realize what they've stepped into, and it's become too much for them, becomes stressful, it affects your life, it affects everything. And obviously you've literally turned on that money tap, and that money tap does not stop until you've got it finished, until you've got it across the line. And unfortunately, over a couple of decades that I've been in property, I have seen it where people have failed, and they haven't had enough money to get them across that line. And that's such a pity. It's such a crying shame, because once you're over that line, you can get it refinanced or sold, and you're back out. But it's just that When you desperately need money, nobody wants to help.
That is good one. Yeah, good. You've probably it's you've seen a lot, haven't you?
Yeah. I've got the scars to show it. Yes.
Wow. What give us another example of something challenging you had to go through. Something where you had to be like,
yeah, I mean, on the
solve it, and you pat yourself on the shoulder. Like, yeah, man, you got this.
So the conversion of the nightclub into 10 apartments. Now that unfortunately. Surveyors, we had several surveyors and engineers, and they all said the same thing. Bear in mind, they're not there at the same time, but they all said the same thing. When they go to college, university to study, they get all these examples of worst case scenarios, and they said, do you know what, your building has them all. This is a degree in itself, and this has been said independently. People have not spoken to each other, and I've heard it from different sources telling me, you're passing a degree in everything you need to know about property. And unfortunately, once we bought the property, we had it surveyed, but it's only, and this is one of the key things, when you are dealing with an existing building and you start peeling away, nobody knows what you're going to find out once you start peeling away. And
it can be ouch.
It passed the structural survey that when we bought it, but when we start peeling things away, because it was such an old building, different owners do different things to the property. They do things without, obviously knowing what had previously had happened. So when we start, peeling it back, taking off the different layers, we then found that the building was structurally weak in a really bad way.
Ouch.
Something no one
and the tap is on.
Nothing anyone could have foreseen. And it required a lot of structural work to put right. It was a very painful process to go through. It blew the budget in a big way. So then I've got a new challenge of, I knew what figures I was working with beforehand. Now I had to make the property, what else could I do to add the value to it to compensate for this huge outlay, this what I call dessert toppings. It was literally hundreds of thousands. It's not what you want to find when you're starting a development like that.
Absolutely.
And then on top of that, obviously, I had both these projects. These were the biggest projects I had to date. And during that time, as it affected everyone, a pandemic hit. Whilst I'm in the two biggest projects that I'm ever involved in. And so that was another challenge. We had private equity financing on it, and one of the best compliments I had. So the director, really nice guy, but he said to me once we'd finished it and got out of it, he gave me a huge compliment, saying he'd seen developers who are far more experienced than me go under for far less. He really believed believed that there was no way we were getting out of this. But you've got to be determined. You've got to set your intention. You've got to deal with anxiety. You've got to get all that stuff under control. You've got to take it one step at a time, say, right, this is the problem. And you've got to take the view, there is a solution, regardless of how difficult and impossible. And believe me, I was told many a time,
you're going down.
This is not going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, there is a solution out there. I will find it. And
that's amazing.
And I think obviously you're big on mindset, and it's, if you say to yourself, right, that there are no solutions to this,
then there will be no solutions.
That is the exact result you will find.
Your world. Yeah.
So, I've come out of it. What doesn't kill you definitely makes you stronger, and I've earned my battle armor in a big way, which is great. It's a horrible process to go through. I wouldn't advise anybody. I would hate it to happen to anybody. It is not comfortable at all. But when you come through something like that, you've earned your degree, and some.
And it's like, I think absolutely. And it's like, Mark, I also think, because obviously being under stress, especially when it comes to lots of finances, and even you are, let's say, when you have a partner as well, and somebody else's money may be involved, and obviously that can affect people's families, mortgages, all sorts, kids, colleges, whatever. Yeah. So it is, obviously, it can be very stressful. So how to deal with that is very important. And loads of people saying, when you follow successful people say things like, let's say, quit booze, eat healthier, exercise. Well, you are a perfect example. You don't drink. You do yoga.
Yes.
You're vegan.
Yes.
So it's like, Mark, like the things what subconsciously, obviously you go through stress and you need to find a way around it, but at least it's help. I mean, it's very positive and must be really good for you if you know it or you don't know it. Must be helping with the stress as well, with the stress easing it, because you eat healthier, you sleep better, you don't drink, which means that you don't have the bad nights, what people say, that on alcohol and things like that. So that, I'd say that's a very positive. But also, I just want to say, tell our listeners, what do you do to get rid of an anger when someone pisses you off? What did you start doing?
Well, yes,
because I love this part.
So this I wasn't doing this through the development. This is now really towards the end of it, but
still, it's awesome.
I still felt I had tension in my body, and I needed to disperse that. So over a year ago, basically, I was looking to get into boxing, but what I came across was Muay Thai kickboxing. So I've been doing that over a year now, and over the years, I've always been into exercise, but I find it's the most. It'll take everything out of you physically, but it's great because you get an opportunity to empty yourself and all your energy out. It's an incredible fitness level. You meet, and because you're sparring with different people, you're trusting each other to hit each other. So you create really good friendships. So.
Like you're allowing someone to punch you.
Yeah, I mean you're holding pads, but it's still, you've got a pad there in front of your face, and somebody's throwing a kick or a punch. You have got to trust them; they're not going to actually stick one right on you.
Yeah.
So,
love that.
But yeah, it's an amazing feeling. You walk out feeling like jelly. But yeah, it builds strength, determination, and it's one of the best forms of exercise I've come across, and I still do other forms of exercise in the morning and so on. And then the other thing I've just recently taken is kind of sort of rock climbing. So I've only done that a few times, but really enjoying that. And that's again just something different.
He also does skateboarding. He skateboards as well.
I haven't done that for a while, but
I still have the skills.
Yes, yeah.
I have a skateboard.
I do enjoy. And I've done kite surfing and stuff like that, microlighting. So I like doing different challenges. So yeah, it's really good to be doing something physical that helps you get out of your head. If somebody is dealing with that anxiety, and I know how horrible that feels, a couple of my best recommendations are to meditate every day. At least sort of 20 minutes. People say, how do you meditate? It literally is just a case of, sit comfortably, close your eyes, and focus on your breath, and just keep doing that. Any thoughts that come into your head, just let it come in and just let it drift out again. Just don't try and become involved with those thoughts. And when you're breathing, and this is something I've learned a little while back, and it's a subtle difference, but it does make a big difference, is to breathe into your belly. Don't breathe up into your chest. That's where all your anxiety is. Breathe down into your belly. When you see a baby breathing, they are the most Zen beings on the planet. Is a baby. When you see a baby breathing, and it's their bellies are coming in and out, so they're just breathing into their belly, and that's what you want to be doing. Don't breathe. We all kind of breathe up into the chest. But that's where the tension is. That's where the anxiety is. Breathe down into your belly. Your chest should not move.
Because I think it's because babies, they don't care that they have a belly, but adults, we don't want to have bellies. So we breathe the chest. But I'm joking.
Let that belly out, literally, and breathe into the belly, and you will feel that calmness. At first, you might feel a little bit of pain, to be honest. If you've got that much anxiety, and I know when I started doing it, there was a sort of twinge of pain, something of pain.
Pinch of pain.
But the more you do that, breathe into the belly, you'll find anxiety to start drifting away because you're physically dealing with it, because your anxiety is up here in the chest, but just belly breathe.
I love that. That is such a good advice. And meditation is one of those things that I don't do as often as I should. And I really want to do it more often. I've even found now, because I'm one of those people who, I don't have even TV on my living room yet. So I don't need TV. I don't have live TV or anything like that. But I do like having a TV on when I'm falling asleep. And I want to get rid of that habit. So what I start doing is I found on Netflix now, you can get, have you seen those programs called Unwind? It's from a company called Headspace. It's made by Netflix. And they have a few different ones, like basically guide to fall asleep, guided meditation, and they're interactive. When it starts, you can choose if you want to relax, if you want to fall asleep, or if you want to, I don't know what other options they are. And then when you get in, it also asks you, do you want to be by the sea? Do you want to be in a midnight train? Do you want to, and different things. And so I started with that because I'm thinking, for someone who's struggling to break the habit or turn the TV off, for example, in the night, what I start doing is that I'll put that on, and then I can close my eyes. I got my Himalayan salt on, and I have my what do you call those, calming oils? Oils on. And it really, when I do it, and I'm actually conscious of it, trying to do it more often, it's changing everything. So the reason why I'm saying that is because for people who are like me, who's struggling to get rid of this habit, I started like that. So I'm simply doing it in the bed, so I don't need to remember to do it during the day or stay down and suddenly it's like, right, don't stop thinking. So I'll do it in the bed when I'm about to go to sleep, and it really works. So hopefully I will eventually start doing it like you, and any, like during the day, just, in the evening or something, I'll stop for 20 minutes. But that's my start. So for the listeners, if you also want to get into meditation, and you don't know where, or you're struggling to turn the TV off, or you don't know how, maybe start with that. Try something like that, which is already on the TV, actually on the TV. Could help.
Something else that I do when I'm trying to get to sleep is, put in your mind that, so it's whatever sort of serene setting would be for you. But for me, it would be laying down in a hammock, but by the, on a beach, by the sea. And I'm not listening to anything. I haven't got headphones or anything, but, you can hear the ocean in your head, and you feel yourself rocking gently in a hammock, if that's the thing for you. I like hammocks. I have a hammock. And just keep running that sort of video through your mind. But if something comes up, you start thinking thoughts, you start hearing stuff. What comes up? Just gently say to yourself, don't think. And just, don't try and fight whatever that voice is, whatever, but just let it go. And if it comes up again, just don't think. And it's just saying those two words just in a really calm, soft manner. Don't think, and just keep listening to the ocean. You can feel the breeze, that warm air in the evening. That's how I imagine it. And you just keep focusing on that image in your mind. And if something comes in, don't. Love
that. And if you don't find that relaxing, people can think of a fire in a book, in a library. It's crackling fire, or as I said, midnight train.
That's it. It's whatever you find soothing.
Yeah, exactly.
For me, that's it. It's been
whales noises.
I've never really quite grasped that. But whatever it is that is for you, is that really calm. Maybe you were somewhere on holiday or some sort of experience, and you thought, I felt so chilled in that environment. Just bring that back up. But for me, I love that balmy air on you're on a holiday abroad, that balmy air in the evening. And for me, just being in
that hammock,
just gently rocking, just hearing the ocean. Yeah.
Amazing. I love that. Absolutely love that. And I want to go and meditate now. I already feel a bit much relaxed. I can feel the caffeine going through my system because I had like 3 coffees. Apart from that, I feel very calm. No, that's a very, very, very good advice, Mark. Really love that. Absolutely love it. And it's things like mindset, peacefulness, yoga, meditation, veganism. these are the hot topics at the moment. People are talking about those things more and more and more now. So it's not as alien as it used to be. Loads of people want to start, but they just don't know how, or they keep forgetting about it until they hear someone talk about it. It's like, yeah, I want to start doing this. So I really appreciate that you point that out as well. And yeah, that's brilliant. So there you go, people. And there are a few ways how to deal with stress, and obviously healthy diets, enough sleep, exercise, physical exercise, but also calming the thoughts are so important. And there you go. Thank you very much for the advice. Really appreciate that. Mark, and now if someone wants to find you, if they want to follow you, where do they go?
So I am on Facebook, I am on Instagram. I'm not the biggest social interaction, but yes, I'm going to be hopefully a little bit more proactive in that sense. But
I'll help him.
But certainly, if you came to my website, which is markdunn.uk, you can contact me through my website. But I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. As
Mark Dunn. I'll pop the links.
Or popular outlets.
I'll pop it everywhere. Fantastic. And Mark, do you like reading books, or do you listen to books?
Audible and reading books. Yes.
So what would you recommend as a book which changed your life? You'll be like, you know what, guys, read this. If you can choose one,
so I wouldn't say necessarily books that changed my life, but something that recently that I read that I really bought into in a big way, and it's called a Tribe of Millionaires.
Oh, it's quite rare to get a new book as a recommendation. Right? It's new.
Yeah. So it's done in a story, so it's not just giving you facts. So it's done as a story.
Wow.
But it's a guy who his father, I think, had passed away, and then he gets this secret card to come and meet this secret organization. They're called the Tribe of Millionaires, but it really demonstrates the power about who is in your tribe, who is in your circle, who are you're dealing with on a regular basis.
I love that. What's the name again?
Tribe of Millionaires.
Tribe.
Mm-hmm. And that certainly is important to me, personally, on a mental and spiritual level of who am I dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Are these the right type of people? Because if you're dealing with somebody who, that's the one who, you're wanting to get into a project with somebody who's an investor, but, if you don't connect with that person, if you have different values, that's not the person you should be getting into business with. I appreciate, it might be your first project and you've got an investor and you're all excited, but if you don't share the same values, if you're not really together in that sort of, that tribe, those same, sentiments of how you're wanting to approach something. So here's something that I've learned through my projects. So most investors, when they're looking at any investment development, any projects, will always look at ROI, return on investment. Mm-hmm. But one of the biggest lessons that I've learned, and now this is actually my first filter, if I'm looking at any investment, is ROE, return on energy.
Right. Nice. I love that.
I would not get into an investment where, it might look super profitable and everything like that, but if I'm dealing with the wrong people, it's the wrong type of project. There's
not chasing shiny pennies.
There's too many variables. This is going to be a massive drain on my energy. No, if it can't get past that first criteria, no, I don't consider it a serious investment.
Loads of people do this mistake, and they keep doing it. I've done this mistake once. Never again.
Yeah.
I've already, you learn you working with a wrong person, you see those qualities in the future as well. So, and it's up to you how you deal with it. Lots of people, they just want the shiny pennies, and they take on anything. I've done that mistake once, which I didn't know it will be a mistake. I worked with someone who I swore to God that I'll never ever want to work with someone like that again. Soon after, I received an opportunity to work with someone who straight away alerts. It was just like the other person. And I turned the opportunity down straight away. It's like, that's not, it's so important who you're working with. And it's like, if you're chasing shiny pennies, that's a very different story. But if you really want to peace and enjoy what you're doing, you need to work with right people. So yeah, well done. And we talked about it the other day.
And it's hard to do, because when you've got that opportunity in front of you and you're thinking, either this person's giving you the land, the property, or money, it is so tempting to go, yes,
yeah, exactly.
I'm going to go ahead with it, and I'm sure it'll all work out just fine.
It might be different.
It won't.
If you have a gut feeling, and the red flags are everywhere, don't just stay away.
And just on that, on the whole gut instinct, there is evidence out there that it's not just gut instinct. That's our second brain. Like literally, scientists are proving that it is a second brain. And it's telling you something that your main consciousness isn't telling you. And if you ignore it, as I have done in the past, every single time I have paid the penalty. So when you get that gut instinct, listen to it.
Absolutely.
Don't try and overrule it. You will suffer for it, unfortunately. I would love to say, well, no, maybe this time. No, I've been there. Not only have I got the T-shirts, I've created a manufacturing company producing the amount of T-shirts I've earned. So if you get that gut instinct that maybe this is not the right person, regardless of how enticing this opportunity might be, my advice is don't do it. You are going to regret it.
It's a great advice. It really is. And coincidentally, the episode before you, I was recording with Laura Muse, and we were basically, they also do developments, they have letting agency. And when I asked her for a top 3 tip, she said, number 1, do not work with wrong people. We're literally talking about this. It's a huge topic, because exactly as you said, it's so easy to slip to it, because you've got to either property offered or land or the money or whatever that is. And it's so easy to just go like, maybe it will be different this time. It's a different person. No, once you have those gut feelings, once you go, these red flags are popping everywhere, just don't go for it. And Laura, we were talking about it, how it can start affecting your life, your marriage and all that, once you, because it's that you're having issues at work, then you come home, that person is following you, the emails, this, it's a nightmare. So why would you go for that?
And this thing, when you're getting into a development project, it's not short term. It's not a couple of weeks or even a couple of months, and there's a lot of money, generally speaking, at stake. And we all have our own sort of set of values. Well, all that becomes heightened. The more stress that's involved, the more money that's involved, it gets tenfold. And that can become incredibly challenging. And it takes a lot to then, look at ways of how can I resolve this and it's a very painful process to go through. So you're better off not going through that process. If you are somebody who's into reading and listening to Audible, the whole point of reading all the types of books that you're doing is you want to gain all that experience from somebody else, so you don't have to go through it.
Absolutely. Love that. Love it. And again, what a coincidence. Laura's Muse last advice was as well on the podcast. She was like, don't do what we did. She said, listen to us. So I think listeners, I think that's something in that message. So for those who still doing a shine, who is starting out, for example, or something, when you have those feelings, just
and the thing that I would say there is, if it is your first project and you've suddenly got this opportunity, but you've just realized this isn't the right person. The landowner is not right. It's going to be a very painful process. The investor is not right. I understand you want to get that first project on the way. But the thing that I would take out of that is, 1, don't do it if you've got that wrong feeling, that wrong vibe about it. But acknowledge you have the value. And that's why I think people get desperate, is they don't value themselves enough. They think, oh, if I don't get this, nothing else is going to come along, or that desperate to get that first major movement forwards. Instead, really congratulate yourselves that there was an opportunity there that you've attracted, you've made happen, or potentially could have happened, but you're that good that you've been able to decline it, you've been able to turn it down. That is added power to you. Do not take it as defeat, not as I've lost. You have gained so much more than just anybody who just jump into it. So recognize you have that value within you. Don't be so keen to give away all of that. Acknowledge yourself. Be proud of yourself. Believe me, the next deal that comes along will be the better deal, and you'll be respected for it. and it will work way better. So,
and you would also be happier with the project because you're not gonna be dragged working with someone who is actually taking your energy down.
Yeah,
you're gonna be working with someone who helps you stay up, which is important. Yeah. I think you should be a mentor. When you're speaking, I feel like yes. Let's do this. I think Mark should be a mentor. What do you think, listeners? Awesome, Mark. I just have one more question. I also ask my listeners. No, I also ask my guests, if you would recommend something to watch, what would you recommend?
So I'm not big on watching TV, and I'm not subscribed to Netflix and all the rest of it, but when the program came out, the series came out, what is it, Secret Billionaire or something, basically Grant Cardone.
Oh yes.
So I had to pay to get the subscription, everything like that, and I absolutely devoured every single episode. Mm-hmm. The trouble is that there's things that were hidden from the camera. Mm-hmm. But here are people that are, at the height of the game. The two women who are on there, and obviously Grant Cardone. And Grant Cardone, I admire what they do. Whether or not it's in my values is a very different thing. But, in 90 days, he created a $5 million business. I could understand why it was assessed at, valued at that. I still couldn't get my head round that he got clients signed up at paying $10,000 a month to run their media. Those are big decisions. Most companies at that sort of, they might have the budget, but they will say, oh, we'll review things, annually. But you didn't see as to how he won that business over. In fact, you saw him pitch to a couple of people, and being a professional salesperson, I thought the pitch was pretty poor, to be honest.
Right. So they said that he's going to start like from the start, but he's still got his name, so it's probably easier to close deals. Maybe
no. That's the thing. Well, you need to see it. You need to see it.
Was he like undercover?
Undercover. He has no contacts.
No, but if it's filmed, they need to give permission for filming. So they already know that it's something, no? Because
yeah. So that might, and that's a good point. Actually, they might realize, oh, there's something there, but they're being introduced this character. I can't remember his name that he gave as a character. So he looked different. People didn't realize he was Grant Cardone. He didn't have any of the money. He didn't have any of the influence. And it was the same for the two women who were also in that. And they created $1 million project. In fact, the one lady who was the ex-wife of Timbaland, the rapper, she created a fantastic business, which was these juice shots, and I thought it was actually incredible. And actually, I was more impressed with her than rather than what Grant Cardone had done. But what he'd done is achieve to set up a $5 million business within 90 days.
Wow!
But so that is a program that's well worth watching, because you are learning massive lessons, even though you're trying to read between the lines what is really going on here. But it is all about mindset. What do you really want to set out? What do you want the world to present to you? But bear in mind, then you've got to present yourself to the world. If you're going in for $1 billion opportunity, if you're hoping and wishing, oh, I wish I had a billion, let's go top end, $1 billion, sitting and wishing and all the rest of it, it isn't going to happen, because you are not that person. You don't need, he creates a $5 million business within 90 days, but he 100% had that mentality, that mindset
that he can do it.
It absolutely is going to happen. There's no question about it's going to happen. He tried to put together a $10 million property deal. It's people, my experience. So I'm very self-taught. And my experience is people go on all these courses, and very expensive courses as well, to learn what to do. And my view on it is not about the what to do, because yes, you can give it to two people and they'll get two very different results. What needs to happen is it's all in the mindset. It's all in the mindset. What do you want and why do you want it? The how and the when, that'll come along when you become the person that is entitled to that, whether it be health, whether it be relationships, whether it be finance, career. You have to become that person. If you want to be that top businessmen. You look at something like Richard Branson. I've looked at him again. He's quite an enigma because he says he's low IQ and everything like that, but
and dyslexic also.
Yeah, but he's got a different type of genius, and he, from his youth, he was very, very, very careful. And in fact, if you look at all your billionaires, generally speaking, once you read their books, and they say it in different ways, but one of the key things I see, whether it be Warren Buffett or anybody like Jeff Bezos, one of the key things that I see time and time again is they protect their mindset.
Mm-hmm.
They won't read the newspapers. They won't watch the TVs. They won't be watching YouTube. They protect their mindset. They are not going on courses. They're not paying whatever. Yes, they have mentors. They, Branson said Freddie Lake was his mentor, who had a big airline at that time. So yes, you can talk to people in the industry and learn from them. But he wasn't paying him. Oh, I've got this 90-day program, this 10-step to setting up an airline. But he certainly tapped into the mindset, and that's what I see time and time again. So once you've got that mindset, yes, you will need to know the movement of things, but understanding the what's to do. If you haven't got that right mindset, unfortunately, you won't get the result. But these people who are teaching and selling these programs are not going to tell you that.
Love that. Absolutely love that. And it's so true. It's like everything just starts with mindset.
It does,
and it's like you mentioned Richard Branson. It's like, how did Richard Branson bought his first plane? Well, he found the plane for 50 grand, and he went to his mom and said, "Mom, can I borrow 50,000?" And he knew he's going to make it work, and mom knew he's going to make it work. Even though she didn't have much money, she knew he's going to make it work. Why? Because she knew that he's got a strong mindset. He already knew and proved mom, I will make this work. So mindset is everything.
And just on that, if you look again at the basically the childhoods and the early parts of their lives of most super successful people, they've had to overcome certain challenges. Richard Branson, it was a slightly unusual scenario. But apparently Richard Branson's mum, when he was like 5 years old or something like that, dropped him off a few miles away from home. I mean, this would be social services in these days. Dropped him a few miles away from home and said, "Find your own way home." This is when he was a child. I might be getting the age wrong or something like that, but no, if you heard of this sort of thing in today's age, it would be social services and like unfit mother. But she very much instilled in her children as like, you've got to overcome life in a big way. And you've got to learn that. And certainly I've, without bringing out the violins and that, but, I've certainly had my issues and challenges, as it were, as a childhood, and things, if you've had, and we've all had bad stuff that's happened in our lives. But the thing that I would say to you is, if you're still holding on to those as to this happened to me, and unfortunately there's some really horrible things that do happen to children, and we all wish that would never be the case, but you need to reframe it and look at a way of how does that empower you? Because unfortunately, we go through that pain and suffering. Let's turn it on its head and empower us, give us the strength, give us the ability that it's like, right, because of that, I'm now a bigger, better, stronger person for it. And I'm having a better life. I'm having a better impact on people surrounding me who I love and I care for.
Yeah. I love that.
Put a positive spin on it. Yeah.
I think you should be a motivational speaker.
Thank you. Right.
I feel so motivated.
Right. Yes. Cool.
Fantastic.
Cool.
Oh, Mark, I absolutely love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Thank you so much for all this amazing. How would I put it? It's like golden nuggets, the advice, sharing your stories. Amazing. Is there anything you would like to add at the end? Is there anything you want to add?
So,
like what will be like be your biggest advice to the listeners? Someone who is starting out thinking, I want to get to, let's say, development. What would you say? Obviously, start with mindset.
So, anything you're getting. So, I've had some massive successes, massive failures, by the way. But again, if you look at all the top people, they all go through that process.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
But one thing I would say, so I got into property because of property. I did not get into property because of the shiny penny. I didn't know all these sort of courses and all this sort of thing. I got into property because I had a genuine interest and passion for property. I really question it when people get into property purely for money. Yes, a lot of people have made big money in property, but the world has changed. We are in a social media, online.
Well, the
landscape has changed dramatically. We've gone from industrial age to, it's moved through the times. Mm-hmm. And the fact is, and this is something I've advised to a lot of people, is if you are looking to make money in a certain way and you're looking at some guru who's selling you a particular course, really ask yourself, do you want to be that person? A true mentor that you really like and respect, you actually take on their mannerisms. But if you actually look at that person and go, he's telling me I can make loads of money, but you don't really respect that guy. You don't really, you feel he's a little bit oily or something like that, or it's just like, no, he's very much a different person from me, or she's a very different person from me. That's probably not the path you should be following. If you connect with someone, it's like, oh, I feel it's a kindred spirit, me and Lenk.
I was about to say. Boom.
It's connect with the right people. That's again with the mindset.
Tribe.
With your tribe. Because then you've got the vibe, then you've got the energy. Don't just jump in something because of money. There are loads of ways to make money.
And someone who can help you grow, and someone who can, someone you can share ideas with, or even if you can ask for advice or opinion and things like that. Yeah.
And that's a totally different world. That's a totally different environment.
Look how happy he is since you know me.
Totally different level of energy. It's very true. It's very true. It's a total different level of energy.
Absolutely.
Don't just follow something because somebody's telling you, and they will always tell you it's easy. Property is not easy. If you're interested because you're genuinely, you like the property side of it or the people side of it, there's those challenges that you like. Don't think, oh, this is a gravy train. It's not a gravy train. And anything that's worthwhile is not a gravy train. In any attempt, challenge, whatever you're looking to attempt to do, get in something because actually, do you know what, that intrigues you and you are prepared to go through that pain and process. Whether it be Steve Jobs, Walt Disney, whoever, they all went through their pains, but because they were that passionate about it, they got to the other side.
Nice.
Steve Jobs, what a phenomenal story that is.
Absolutely.
Got ousted out of his own company and then only to be brought back. But he kept going because it wasn't about money. He was a billionaire.
Yeah.
He could have stopped. It was the passion.
Absolutely. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing all this. It was absolute pleasure having you.
Thank you.
I'm so glad we've done that.
Yes.
Finally. And I'm sure I'll bring you back one day because this was amazing. So Mark, thank you ever so much again for coming on the show.
Lovely. Thank you.
Can't wait to share your stories and your nuggets and everything. Nuggets, golden nuggets and all that. Your nugget. He gives free chicken nuggets.
Vegan chicken nuggets.
Vegan chicken. Okay, sorry. Oh gosh. Exactly. Mistake done at the end.
Yes.
But yeah, thank you. I'm wishing you all the success in the world, and I can't wait for all our future projects together.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
High five to that.
Cheers.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.